We're here with Paul Loynd. Is that the correct pronunciation of your second name?
That is the correct pronunciation.
Get me.
I would hope that you guys, if anyone, would pronounce it correctly. It's Welsh.
Whoa, really?
Whoa, I'm not Welsh. Mike's Welsh. I'm not Welsh.
I am, but I've never met a Loynd before.
It's pretty. Even in Wales, it's a pretty rare name. Like if I meet a Loynd, they're related to me.
Fair enough.
Shouldn't it be something like Hoynd or something like that if it's Welsh?
I don't know. Those, the Welsh they're an interesting people.
They are.
That was very political, and we have a lot of Welsh listeners, so they will appreciate that.
Yeah.
No.
I'm a big fan of Gareth Bale. I'll put it that
way. Who are you, and what do you do?
I am the producer at Meteor Entertainment for Hawken. I am in charge of essentially delivering Hawken to market and all of the other pieces that are connected to it, like our website and our store and anything that's connected to Hawken and so basically that experience. So I get things done.
Were you at Gamescom?
I was at Gamescom.
Oh, we didn't meet you.
That's a shame.
Did you guys, I was doing press interviews the whole time. They had me in a small white room drinking Diet Coke and eating strange German sausages, talking to random press people for 8 hours at a time.
I thought, yeah, we were there as well, but I don't remember you. Were there other people doing interviews as well?
There were. So
it was
the
short
me
straw,
and
got someone else.
Is there a short straw on the Meteor team though?
I can't say that.
That wasn't a no. I'm sorry. So how long have you been with them since day one? Since it was a tiny team, or?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I came on board in February of 2012 when there was 8 of us and we were all in a basement. So magical times. That was basically like it was me and 7 other people in a basement in Seattle, and then the adhesive team was like eight guys.
Damn.
down in Pasadena, and it was before they'd even had a studio.
Damn. But you guys still had game footage out by then, right? I mean, I remember seeing and it looked almost as good as I'm sure it's come leaps and bounds from where it was, but I remember it still looking distinctively like it does now, and still thinking, wow, that looks awesome.
The word that the phrase that we use is visually disruptive, right? And so our first trailer was designed to be visually disruptive, and that was 6 guys in a garage working. They'd all worked together previously on a team called Project Offset for Intel.
Right.
And when that project closed, they all got together and basically decided that they wanted to make Hawken, and they worked out of a garage together, putting that gameplay together in a video, and then put it on the internet, and it just blew up.
Yeah, but it's like living the dream, though, right? So you're like, shit, let's get the idea together, let's get the guys together, let's just do this thing and see what people think, and then suddenly here you are now. It's we're coming up to 2013. There's tons of hype behind it. You guys got a lot more money than I'm guessing than you did started out behind the project now, and a much bigger team, I'm guessing.
We're able to pay the bills now.
I was about to say that's rock and roll, but then you went and ruined it. That we're able to pay the bills. That's not rock and roll.
Well, I mean, yeah. I could put it a number of different ways. Like, are there hookers in Blow? Probably not.
All right, now you're just destroying the illusion.
Yeah. At least I haven't been privy to any hookers in Blow. But
once again, that's not the same as saying it hasn't happened. That's.
But I mean, E3, right? E3 was really big for us. We had a big party where it was like our coming out party. We were really making a big kind of. It was our Cinderella moment, right? E3, I think, was our Cinderella moment, right, where it pretty much became obvious to the rest of the world that we'd gone from indie darling to indie fairy tale, right? And Hawken at that point was on the big stage, and it was competing with the big boys on the E3 floor for some of the same awards.
You guys are everywhere I look, on every website, on every magazine. You're just if this is your job, you're doing a good job. You earn your salary, so.
Since that first video, I was like, I am wet for this.
Yeah.
So.
Well, right. let's not pull any punches.
No, I'm like, this could go much. Let's not go any further down the rabbit hole with that. But yeah, I mean, Paul makes a good point though. I mean, you guys have really like you said, you have become media darlings and very much in the center light.
I think that we're all very grateful, and it's a wonderful place to be, right? Where you have a game that's so visually stunning that it's easy to get attention. You know, the first thing that happens when most people see Haken is they just immediately go, "What is that?" Right?
Right.
And it's so different to anything that's out there right now. Like you immediately, even though it's an FPS, right? You immediately know it's different from other FPSs because you're like, "What's going on here?" Like I'm inside of this machine, right? You know, so immediately people want to look and watch and see what's going on, and then they see the mechs and they're like, "Oh my God, it's mechs!" You know, and there's definitely, especially among the gaming culture, like mechs have a sweet spot, right?
Right.
I'll remember Mech Warrior, Mech Assault, and Phantom Crash, Armored Core.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, mechs just have this special place in gamers' hearts.
Because we all grew up with Transformers, right? And we all secretly wanted to be a Transformer. Well, or not, like a Robotech, you know, we all wanted to pilot a robot, right?
Right. I was going to go back even further. Like, forget Transformers, like Voltron and Robotech, right?
Yeah,
you know, I grew up watching both of those shows.
Notice how no one said GoBots. Nobody wanted to be a GoBot.
Sorry, GoBots. Yeah. We are a mech game like Mech Warrior, but we're closer to the experience that you would get, say, playing Counter-Strike or Call of Duty, right?
So, what games directly would you say have inspired Haken's playability? Would you say it would be Call of Duty and a little bit Mech Warrior? Would you say, I mean, there are other games that have really inspired what you wanted Haken to be, you know, be similar? People would like anecdotally be like, well, it's a bit like this game if you're trying to describe it to someone who's never played it before.
I would say the gameplay has mostly been influenced by other FPS games like Counter-Strike or Call of Duty or Battlefield.
So fast, right? Like fast, efficient, brutal.
A faster pace. The interesting thing there is, though, that we strike an interesting balance between the speed of those Call of Duty games and what we would consider a necessary mech experience, right? Because if you played the game, you immediately know that you don't move like a human does, right? Like you move around in Call of Duty or Battlefield, and it's all very fluid and very quick and very twitchy. Mm-hmm. And Haken has that speed, but at the same time, you're very, very aware that you're in a mech, right? The way that it moves.
You've still got weight and like a feel of like necessary clunkiness behind you.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a sense of necessary weight, right? Like you know that you move with purpose, right? So that when you take a step left or a step right, it's not as simple as, you know, there's more of a commitment when you make movements in Haken. The way that I look at it, right, is when you think about how fast combat engagement takes place in different FPSs. On one end of the spectrum, you have Call of Duty, right, where like literally the second someone sees you, it's like half a second later and you're dead, right? Dead, like one of you is dead, like that. Someone is not leaving that conversation. You know, if conversations were had with bullets, someone's walking out alone. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, in terms of FPSs, I would put Halo on the long end of like combat engagement, right? Like it's more an issue of like where Call of Duty rewards you for twitch and quick aim, Halo rewards you for good movement and consistency, right? Yeah. So like to win in Halo, you have to not only be good at getting the drop on someone, but you have to be able to consistently continue and aim because you have to chew through their shield and then chew through their life, right? And people are jumping around and rocket jumping and stuff like that. So being able to consistently aim on them and hold a beat on them and fire and continue that rate of damage and do more damage than they do during that engagement is going to be the winner. And I see Haken somewhere in the middle of that in terms of the way movement works in Halo is very different from the way that movement works in Haken, right? Like Haken is more, the physics for Haken are very, very real, right? Like when a mech dodges, it dodges just a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left, but at such a speed that like players, you know, you have to learn how to anticipate movements and things like that. And what you were talking about, we were talking about that engagement where you're getting hit with barrages of rockets. Like we want you to know that you are in battle. We want you to feel that adrenaline, right? So like you're not dead in just a second. Like I mean, okay, if you walked into a crowd of 5 mechs and they all fired at you at the same time, yeah, it's going to end pretty quickly.
Yep.
But in one-on-one battles, what we're going for is this sense of like real engagement, right? Like you are face to face. It's very visceral, like you were saying. Like you're face to face with your enemy, even if that they're at long range. There's this kind of like it's almost like tank battles, right? Like tanks are like, you know, they're firing at each other from range or close range, and like
it's personal.
It's personal.
Yeah.
They can take hits. It's knockdown, drag out, right? No one is going to come away. Very rarely do you come away from a fight unscathed.
Yeah. So my first experience in the closed beta was a deathmatch, you know, just all-on-all deathmatch, and I joined the match halfway through. I ended up winning by a long way, but the reason I was doing it is because, but no, check it out. I was going into my fight, and you know, it's almost like that gentleman's agreement. You see a mech, you know, we're both going, you know, that he sees me, I see him, we go towards each other, we start opening up with long-range weapons. I'm darting in and out of you know, left, right, timing my dodges to dodge his rockets, and then, you know, that instant that my like weapons start making contact with him, I'm boosting the air trying to, like, you know, outmaneuver him. And this isn't like a fight in Call of Duty, which would have been over, like you said, in seconds. This is an ongoing tactical. I'm dodge behind this building, recharging, waiting for my heat to cool down, dodge back out, like blah blah blah. You know, it was a constant, like, trying to outwit each other almost. You know, it was awesome. And I don't think any other FPS or any other game really kind of put me in that position that like Hawken did. And it was doing that, you know, straight out the box. You know, it wasn't like a case of how do I play this properly. It just felt intuitive to really plan my steps.
You've touched on something that's really important to Hawken gameplay, and that's exactly what you're talking about, is that there's an element of strategy to it that doesn't exist in other FPSs, right? Like where in Deathmatch, for instance, because of the fact that, like what you were talking about, where you were like in that battle with another mech, right? The other thing that a player has to keep in mind is that while your battle is occurring, everybody else on the map can see you.
Yeah.
Right? You light up as soon as you boost or fire your weapons. So for that whole time that engagement is occurring, you're basically advertising your presence to the other mechs on the map, the other players there, right? So the thing that has to be constantly present in your mind is, I need to finish this engagement and have an escape route planned, right?
Right.
Because somebody's going to show up, or two people are going to show up.
That's another dynamic, though, isn't it? Though the repairing side of things, like, you know, being able to like get your health back up to full in about 10 seconds. But those 10 seconds are so nerve-wracking. You're like, right, I've got to hide, and I've got to make sure I put myself in a position that if I see someone coming, I need those extra 3 or 4 seconds to like get my mech back up and running before I get engaged.
Yeah, like do it. And again, it goes back to like that commitment, right? That commitment of movement. Like when you decide I'm going to repair, that's not a simple decision. Like you're powering down your mech. There's a fairly long animation for powering down and then repairing. And then even when you let go, it's about a couple seconds before your mech is back, you know, out of that power up animation again. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because, you know, when you decide to repair, we want it to be a decision for the player. We want you to be saying, you know, like, okay, I'm committing to this, and I know that if somebody, you know, stumbles on me, it's going to be bad for me.
Oh, you're so I mean, the number of times I've stumbled on some repairing, I'm like, okay, so that's a freebie. Thank you.
Yeah, essentially, like you stumble on somebody repairing, like they're dead.
Oh yeah.
So we said earlier on, Mike and I were saying how, in our opinion, the coverage of Hawken has increased exponentially since Gamescom and E3 this year. It's gone through the roof, and presumably with that has come more funding.
And on top of that, yeah, there's added pressure, surely, you know, from the fact that you now have investors.
Exactly. And with the additional funding, what kind of ideas do you guys have for the future?
So first, you know, we're really lucky to have the investors that we have. Firstmark and Benchmark are great venture capitalists to have at your back, right? Because they have some experience in this. You know, this is not their first rodeo. We want the game to be right. You know, like one of the great things about a free-to-play game is you don't have to look at it the same way that you look at a retail game, right?
It's not. It's not. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's not all or nothing, right? When you think about a retail game, it's all or nothing. Like when you release it, if it doesn't do well, you can't go back and like continually redo things, and you know, it just doesn't work. You've lost your initial momentum. Whereas with a free-to-play game, it's a game as a service, right? We can continue to tweak and refine and change, and find that balance that resonates the most with our players. And then really focus on those things and make the game the best experience as possible. Like I'm kind of old school in that way, in that, you know, I think the best way to make money is to make a really good game.
Damn right.
Fair enough, yeah.
You know, and I think we all share that mentality that, you know, the game experience is first. You know, if the user experience is top notch, if people like the game, they're going to come back and the money will come. So although monetization is something that we actively are working on and there's definitely science behind it. We don't just sit around and play with numbers. We're actively looking into how we want to do those things.
Are you taking notes from the other current free-to-play games that are coming out? Will it be a case that you really have to invest maybe 10, 20 times the amount of time to actually get anywhere compared to if you were paying for the product?
Right. So we definitely want to avoid the pay-to-win stigma. That's something that we just don't want associated with our game.
Yeah.
It's something that's hard to do, I'd say, because there's always a vocal minority. I'm sure that if you go to any games forum, regardless, you go to League of Legends forums, and I think we can all agree that League of Legends has probably one of the fairest, if not the fairest, free-to-play models out there.
No, definitely.
Yep.
And you're still going to see people shouting pay-to-win. It's the nature of the beast. This happened because I didn't buy something, instead of saying this happened because I suck, right? Most people aren't gonna go there first.
Are you listening, Mike? You should be taking.
You're a jackass. You're an absolute jackass. I'm gonna name the game Gibson apart from Need for Speed, and I will destroy you.
But it happens, and so one of the things that we want to make sure of more than anything else is that our system is fair, right? I think it's really easy to do that. I can't name any names, but I think that other games out there, they miss the point, right? They miss the idea of if you make it so that a player has to invest 200 hours before they can buy one item, whereas a player can spend $20 and get all of those same items. Think about then you create for the player you create a value system where you say, I think that your time is worth X amount of dollars. I think that 200 hours of your time is only worth $5, right? Whereas if you look at League of Legends, right, if you're playing League of Legends for a pretty good amount of time, I'd say the average amount of time to earn a champion is 20 to 30 hours, maybe less than that. And people seem to think that system is fair. I think that it's a good starting off point to look at those things. We're still tweaking our rate of accrual for our in-game currency, but we definitely want to make sure that we reach a point where it's fair. We don't, obviously the last thing we want to do is make it so that you can just earn everything right away, because that's going to shoot us in the foot. We're at the end of the day, we are a business. We need to make money. If we want the game to stay around, and we want to keep providing a high quality experience for players. But at the same time, we need to make it fair so that people, are making the choice, right? They're making a choice to purchase something as opposed to feeling forced, right? No one likes to feel forced. It's a dirty feeling.
Where's the design aesthetic come from for the Hawk and Mechs? Because they are different. They don't look like anything I've ever seen in I would not look at one of those, the Hawk and Mechs, and think, that looks a little bit like something out of Gundam, or that looks a little bit something out of like Transformers. They are completely and utterly their own thing. Where? What? How?
The biggest influence for the Hawk and Style guide is a Japanese tabletop IP called Maschinenkrieger, which means machine warrior, basically.
Right.
Sounds German.
It is German, yeah.
Oh, that's right. I was going to say.
You'll see a lot of influences from there. They're not one for one, right? They definitely are different in their own way. They're unique to Hawken, but you can see.
There's a breach of copyright waiting.
We just ripped off Maschinenkrieger. That's how we did it. You can see the etymology. You can see where the mechs came from.
Okay.
And the style is very, very unique, right? There's a bunch of other influences as well. A lot of the 80s movies, like Blade Runner, for instance. If you look at the levels, Andromeda, for instance.
Damn it! That was my next question. Ruining my. Can I ask you the question and then pretend No, I'm kidding. You can.
I'm going to pretend. Okay.
So, Paul, I noticed first of all, when the first time I ever looked at the video of Hawken, that hey, your environment looks awesome and unique. Please tell me, where did you get the idea for such wonderful design and levels that were unique from? Is that convincing? Did that sound like I was...
Well,
you totally rolled off the tongue. It was awesome.
Mike, brilliant. It's interesting. You should ask that question. Because I have an answer for your question that you asked.
It's like you are in my head, ready for me.
Yeah. No, yeah. A lot of movies like Blade Runner were also influences for the way that we the way that we build levels. If you look at Andromeda, for instance, you see it's a very like, it looks like an Asian ghetto from like Southeastern Asia, right? But like a futuristic Asian ghetto where everything is very like vertical and packed, tightly, densely packed. And the building style is very, very much something out of like, you know, something you would see in like a ghetto in China or Korea or Vietnam. Not something that's easily relatable to something in U.S. architecture or United States, Western or even European architecture.
But they look gorgeous as well. Like just outside of the fact that, you know, the design aesthetic, they actually looked super richly detailed, and you know that this could be in any other game. You know, well, let me rephrase that. They are good enough to be in any sort of game. Do you know what I mean? This isn't just something. They don't look like backgrounds that have just been thoughtlessly textured. This could be an environment. I could envisage going inside that building, you know, or playing a different type a game where the idea and the concept is something based around such buildings that you see in some of these maps. They look fantastic. I mean, where do you get the time, and who do you have on the art team that is so talented that they actually bring these things to life?
So Kang Lee, our creative director down at Adhesive, one of the founders of Adhesive, is...
Focus on his name for a second. Kang Lee.
Kang Lee, yes.
He sounds like the greatest martial artists of all time.
I would love to know if Kang actually knows martial arts, but the dude's like half my size.
If he doesn't, well, even if he doesn't, he should. You should tell him that.
He probably should. Me. He is from Vietnam, so I don't know how big they are into martial arts in Vietnam, but yeah, I'll ask him that question. But really, I mean, it's his vision, right? You know, Kang is the one that has this vision in his mind space. And it's, you know, being executed by his highly talented team of artists and himself as well. Mm-hmm. And this is all just something that has kind of come from him. Yeah, it's just amazing to watch the ideas that he comes up with and the direction that he takes things, because it's all very, like, again, visually disruptive, right? Like, he has this so completely unique world that he's dreamt up and created. And just to see the continual growth and his team of artists, they all get it, right? Like, as we see new content roll out, like, it all maps to that Hawken style guide of like, what is Hawken, you know? It's all very important and very intentional about the way that, like, things are spaced, the way that windows are shaped, the way that, you know, items are put together, the way that, like, structures are defined, right?
Right. I mean, and one thing that and I don't know whether I should say this out loud. There's a part of me that almost regrets that this is a free-to-play game, because as beautiful and as amazing as they are, they fit perfectly in the world, and it feels right for this, you know, this futuristic game that we're playing. At the same time, I want to explore a lot of that. And I know when, you know, you're doing a lot of third party, you know, well, not third party, but, you know, you're doing the comics, and then there's the film.
Oh, you preempted my next question.
In your face, in your face. Like, there's a part of me that wants to experience that world more than you can through a free to play game, because unfortunately, you know, within a free to play game, you know, or even any multiplayer game, there is not really that much room for dialogue and story. You know what I mean? So, and I do like that you're exploring it further in these other formats. But there's a part of me that, because as a gamer, wants to explore it digitally. You know, I want to be able to go around those levels, and, you know, it almost, because there's such a beautiful effort gone in, and everything does look so uniquely stunning. I almost, you know, I want to do more with it than just shoot another guy in a robot next to that building. You know, it's hard to explain, but I don't know. I can't explain it any further than that. I guess
that's the magic of a world that draws you in, right? Like, when you've done a good job of creating an immersive world, that's the effect. Like, that should be the effect. You want to explore that. It draws you in, and it makes you want to know more about it. It makes you want to explore, and it makes you want to understand, like, what is this place? Like, why? Like, any of the IPs that I've ever really been interested in, they do that to me, right? Like, I want to explore more. I want to read the lore. I want to read the fluff, because I want to know about this place that I'm in, because it's so interesting to me.
Right.
And Hawken does that, right? Like, it creates that curiosity in the player.
You have the comic book coming out March next year.
Yep.
Do you have? Have I dreamt something? Are you having a live action film as well coming out, or
it is in the works. We don't have a lot of details on it right now.
I wouldn't want to jinx it by asking any more questions about it, just because there's such a bad track record for game related films. You know, and never seeing the light of day and stuff.
it's definitely tough, and there's really nothing that I can say about it at this point. The one thing that I can speak to is that our transmedia stuff is an important part of really like the focus of it is drawing people to the game, right? Like we want people to know about Hawken. We want them to know. We want people to know who wouldn't necessarily be looking in the right place, but might be interested in Hawken to be exposed to it and potentially drawn to the game through other channels, right?
Google Hawken and be like, oh, what's this?
Yeah, exactly.
Free?
And yeah. The great thing is we have some really talented people on board for creating that additional content, right. And being able to create, flesh out the world that is Hawken.
So go on, give us an exclusive. You have a TV series coming, don't you? Go on.
We have talked about. I will level with you guys. We have talked about a Hawken boy band.
Shit.
But it's a 5-person mech band instead of So imagine mechs dancing. Awesome. It's going to be amazing.
And Kang Lee.
We've already got
Kung Fu fighting at the front.
We've got a concert. We got a concert tour lined up already. Lady Gaga is going to be opening for us, so it's going to be pretty insane.
Damn,
that's awesome.
You heard it here first, listeners. It's official.
Yeah. Oh God, I want to say that boy bands have died, but I know they haven't. I know that it's only a matter of time before they come back, like roaches.
There's a fair few boy bands I wish died. Boyfriends.
Something you want to tell
me? I'm sorry, no.
Is there something you're trying to tell us, Mr. P?
Hey, listen, our podcast is just a cacophony of abusing me, so no.
This is a safe place. This is a safe place, Gibson.
If you read the title correctly, it's the Gay Mover Cast, so... I'm just saying. Gibson came up with a name, that's all I'm saying.
Even when we interview polite individuals like this, I still get abused. What the hell?
How does that happen?
I don't know. Maybe I just ask for it,
Paul, you've been fantastic. Thank you very much for allowing us to interview.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's been great.
Indeed. Thanks very much.